Thank you, Brian, and it's so great to be back on Tennessee soil. I love this state. And listen, I want to congratulate my friend Art Laffer for receiving the ALEC Award last night. I so wanted to be here with you. We had everything arranged that I could be back here and surprise you last night. But as things go many times in Congress, it doesn't work exactly the way we wanted to, but for a good reason. We were working on getting the Senate and the House bill together as conferees and hopefully getting that to the president's desk. No, I should say, and getting it to the president's desk before Christmas. So, sorry I couldn't be here with you. And to all of my Tennessee state legislator friends, thank you for what you do here in this state. Thank you for standing strong for those principles of conservatism, the principles of keeping a smaller government. We just so much appreciate you. I also appreciate ALEC and what you have done for many years. And when I was here at the state legislature, we used your services in my office to help us to know those policies that are the best policies for our state, the best policies for a smaller government, for federalism, for keeping our state as one of the best in the nation. And I want to thank you for that. I want to urge you to continue to do what you're doing because it is so needed for all the state legislatures to have you as that resource to make sure they're headed in the right direction. Because we all know that states really are the laboratories of democracy. Here in Tennessee and here in states around the country, we're implementing those new ideas, those new policies, thinking outside of the box for this ever-changing 21st century. But we can't do it without the help with groups like ALEC, and so we appreciate you so much. I want to talk a little bit about Tennessee, which of course is the state that I think is the best in the entire country, and I'm going to say that obviously as someone who has served here, who has lived here, but I also want you to know that I really believe this is true because I am not a native. I was not native born here to the state of Tennessee. I was born and raised in Maryland, and my husband and I lived there until we had the opportunity to flee that state for something better that reflected our values and also gave us greater opportunity, economic opportunity, and that's right here in the state of Tennessee. So my husband and I love this state. We love the people here, and I know you have felt that warm welcome as you have been welcomed into our town, not just right here in this hotel, but as you walk around this great city, you will see that people will welcome you and treat you as if you are Tennessee's own. We also love the values here. We love the people in our state that recognize that make America great and try to put those principles, those values that are so Tennessee values into action right here in our state. And you will know about our state that we really are about families. We are about faith. We're about conservative principles in government, and the results that we have here speak to them. Tennessee really is on the move, so let me talk about a couple of things that would show that. We have the lowest unemployment rate in the history of our state currently. We have an annual budget that has a surplus. Tell me how many states around the nation have that. We have a state with no state income tax. It is what I really cut my teeth on here in this state, is no state income tax. We had an administration that tried to put that in, an administration of my own party. We have an education system that's on the rise, that has gone from the bottom of the pack to the middle of the pack. We're one of the most pro-life states in the entire country. So I'm proud of our leaders, as I said before. I'm proud of the leaders that are here today, the leaders that have gone before us that keep Tennessee strong. I'm proud of our state legislature, and I'm proud to have served here before I went to Congress because it really did help to train me up right, as we say, so that when I went to Congress, I would have that kind of training that I needed to fight for those values when I went to Congress. And I believe it goes all the way down to our local officials, right down to our county seats, our local officials at the state level on both the local bodies and also in the educational realm. We have conservative leaders with conservative values and principles. But here's what I say. We cannot be complacent. Our state is doing well, but we can always do better. We should not sit back and say, oh, we've got it done and we have done everything. So as I travel across our state, I see that the booming economy that's right here in Middle Tennessee, and some even tease that we should call the crane the state bird because we have so many of them here in Middle Tennessee. Great things are going on right here in Middle Tennessee in some of our suburban areas. But in our more rural areas in our state, folks are not seeing the same kind of booming economy that we see here. And while our unemployment rate is at an all-time low, our labor workforce participation rate has still remained basically unchanged since the recession. Let me say that again. If we look at unemployment, it is low. But if we look at the true number of how you measure how many people are working, how many able-bodied people are actually employed, we see that we still do not have a number that has risen above where we were in the recession. So we're doing well, but we can do better. The policies coming out of Nashville should be rising the tide of all Tennesseans, and to give every person in this state an opportunity to be able to have that version of the American dream. So, as we look forward, I think there are three issues that are essential to our success. And the first one is expanding vocational education. I want to know by the raise of hands, and I'm going to have a little hard time seeing that with lights here, how many of you took an aptitude test when you were in middle school? How many of you? A great number of you, I see. I believe that every one of our students in about the 7th or 8th grade should be taking an aptitude test so that they could see what it is that they're meant to be, what is their God-given talent, and then matching that to their interests so that we help them to understand and know what it is that they are eventually going to be good at. I took an aptitude test when I was in the 8th grade. My aptitude test said I would be a nurse. I went to nursing school, and now for 45 years, I still maintain my license. It is something I love. But it also said that I could be an engineer. And if you were to ask my husband, if he were here this morning, who fixes things around the house, he would tell you it is me. He is not allowed to fix things around the house because if he takes it apart, there are 5 screws that are left over that he doesn't have any idea of where they go. But because I am good with my hands and because I have an engineering mind, I know that is one of the other talents that I had. We should bring back these aptitude tests and ensure that every single student is able to take that test and to be able to figure out and what they're meant to be while they're in school. Not allow them to graduate, go on to potentially going to a college, spending money on getting a degree that they're never going to use, and we see that happening all the time. And some of those will bounce around in jobs that are low-paying wage jobs, and some of them will actually go on welfare. I meet them as I go across the state. So I'm a true believer that we need to help students. It's our responsibility in high school, throughout their school years actually, not just to teach them the reading, writing, and arithmetic, which is very essential and we must do, but we also must help them to understand where their God-given talents are so that they can move toward that and have a successful career. Not only does it give them a successful career, but we also then have an educated workforce, which will help us as we attract more industry and business into our state. Second, as I look at the rural areas, I ask them what do they need, and they tell me 2 things. Both of them have to do with infrastructure. One of them is they need broadband. It doesn't matter whether you're a business or even whether you're someone retired where you need broadband to look at your Social Security and your retirement funds, or whether you're homeschooling, and schools out in the rural area should have the same kind of access to high-speed internet that the ones in the inner cities and the suburban areas have. And so I believe we need to lift up those folks in all those rural areas, and rather than seeing Main Street roll up in the rural areas and the counties and the cities just go into devastation where they don't even have their own staying in their county anymore, we have got to look to them and make sure that we're giving them every bit as much treatment and attention as we are the more suburban and urban areas. And third, and most importantly to me, is Tennessee, like many other states around this country, are dealing with the scourge of opioids. It's an issue that weighs heavily on my heart. And here in the state of Tennessee, in 2016 alone, the crisis took over 1,600 Tennesseans. Tennessee is second in the nation for prescriptions per person, And while the number of prescriptions are declining, we see the number of overdoses rising because addicts now are turning to heroin and fentanyl. And as a nurse who has spent my entire life caring for people, I've also taken that same attitude into my public service. So the number one job to me right now is to make sure that our leaders solve this problem. Drug addiction does not discriminate. As you all know, it affects those that are old and young. It affects the poor and the rich. It affects the rural and the urban. And it's the greatest challenge that I believe that we face right now, where we can lose a whole generation. So we need to shut down the pill mills. We need to support the drug monitoring programs so that we can prevent opioids from being overprescribed. We need to educate our kids about the dangers of opioids, and we need to educate families about those warning signs of abuse so that they can be early on to interdict when there is a problem. We need to prioritize research and investments so we can learn more about the safe and effective management of pain. And I firmly believe that the future generations will judge us on how we handle this crisis. So solving this crisis is not only a policy issue, but I believe it's a moral imperative that we all lock arms and say we are going to address this issue. But I want to tell you I have hope. I have hope because I've seen groups such as Clay County Students Against Destructive Decisions that are working right there within their own school of doing peer counseling with their own peers. Just one idea that's out there where even the young folks have seen this scourge and can help for us to address this issue. You know, the greatest thing about America is no matter how big the challenge, I know that the people of this country will step up and we will meet the need head on. And finally, I want to close with some words about federalism. ALEC's mission statement, of course, talks about your focus on the principles of limited government, free markets, and federalism. So I've been in Washington for the last 7 years now, serving the 6th Congressional District, and you hear a lot in Republican circles about those first two principles, but limited government and free market. But even among my own Republicans, and I'm going to tell you, it's even among my own friends, the principle of federalism often is ignored in Washington. And why is that? Because no matter which party you belong to, that when you get power, no one wants to give up power. And I've seen that up close and very discouraging. But I've always believed in the principle of federalism. So this year, as has been said, I had the opportunity to be able to chair the Budget Committee. And I sponsored and passed out of the House the most conservative budget in 20 years. And I will tell you that I have joked that I thought it should be called the 10th Amendment budget, because from health care to education to transportation to social welfare programs, our budget proposed sending more of the power from Washington right back to the states where it absolutely belongs. So our budget also included the largest mandatory spending cut in 20 years, and until we handle the mandatory spending, no matter what you do to discretionary, you are not going to be able to solve the debt crisis. So we need to address that issue straight on. We have an opportunity with a great president, with our president, Donald Trump, in the Oval Office. And if you consider that the Republicans are in control, at least in the House, even though we say we're in control in the Senate, if they don't get rid of those darn rules they have that are antiquated and say we need 60 to get that vote, I'm not sure we can actually say we're in control. But for purposes of right now, I'll say we control the Congress. We need to take the steps to return that power back to the states as our founding fathers intended. And it's an opportunity we cannot let slip through our fingers. We have to do it now. So just on a little side, if you will encourage our senators to change those rules, it would be very helpful. I actually have been with some senators who have served in the past, who have some very large names. I won't mention them here because I haven't asked for their permission to, but they actually agree, having served in the Senate for a number of years, that it's time to break that culture up there and to get back to the point where a simple majority is a 50+1 and not a 60 vote. So I'm going to end with a great quote from a great Tennessean, Andrew Jackson, and he said, Americans are not a perfect people, but we are called to a perfect mission. Our country and our state are faced with significant challenges. We'll all agree with that. But with those challenges come tremendous opportunity. And I know that we as Americans can face those challenges together and take this opportunity to fulfill our perfect mission. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be with you today. Thank you for all you do. God bless you and God bless America.